Good evening. We have got big problems here in Britain. The Green Party's co-deputy leader, Mothin Ali, was at a pro-Iran rally in London this weekend. Yes, there you go. This is the same bloke who had to apologise after doing this in the immediate aftermath of the October 7th Hamas attacks.
Now, remember the situation in Palestine and especially the situation in Gaza. It's an open-air prison. It's the biggest concentration camp the world has ever seen. Millions of people have been rounded up into a tiny area. They're living on top of each other. They've been forced to live off scraps that the international community sometimes donates to them.
So the head of the Green Party thinks what the US and Israel did was illegal and that we should stop being allies with them.
Bringing the UK into another illegal war does not make us any more safe. And polling shows over and over again that the majority of people in this country do not want our UK bases to be used by US military. And the only reason why this is happening is Keir Starmer is incapable of standing up to Donald Trump.
Jeremy Corbyn's absolutely fuming about the death of the Ayatollah.
International law matters. Illegality matters, human rights matter, human lives matter. And so when the first bombardment is on a primary school in Iran and 50 primary school age girls are killed because of this bomb, and then all the rest of it spirals out of control, more lives lost, more pain, more horror, and a great deal of money being made by arms manufacturers all around the world. Can't we in this country do something to try and bring about peace there?
Well, the rumours are that Jeremy Corbyn has spent the entire weekend getting onto Interflora to try and get a wreath for his good friend, the Ayatollah. But Zara Sultana wants to kick all American troops out of Britain. And there's even a vigil being held for the Ayatollah in Manchester. The Muslim Student Council cancelled an iftar event out of honour for the Ayatollah. The Islamic Centre of England, whose leader is appointed by the Ayatollah, are calling him a great martyr. And the Liberal Democrats seem gutted that Trump and Israel killed the biggest Islamist in the world.
Once again, President Trump has launched a unilateral and unlawful act. Ayatollah Khamenei was a brutal dictator and a monstrous war criminal. He supported Hamas and their October the 7th atrocities, and he massacred thousands of his own people for daring to protest against decades of repression. I shed no tears for him. But instead I think of all the innocent Iranian civilians who have lost their lives. I think of the US service personnel killed in action, our allies and partners in the region who are being outrageously targeted by Iran, and our British bases which have already faced attack. They did not choose this war.
The father of Labour's leader in Scotland, Anas Sarwar, has shared a tribute to the Ayatollah. You just couldn't make this stuff up, could you? It's remarkable. We have loads of people in Britain and in politics who are obviously very pro-Ayatollah. They are exposing themselves for the world to see. But get a load of this. The EU has proven what we already knew. It's a useless blob. Ursula von der Leyen reacted to the potential start of World War III by saying that European leaders would meet in 2 days' time. Bit of alpine skiing, let's have a fondue night, crack open a nice bottle of red, and then we'll just get round to the war in a couple of days' time. Iran has repeatedly tried to launch terror attacks here in Britain. More than 20 of them, and that was going back a couple of years now. One of the world's worst terrorists is dead. I don't really care whether or not killing him offends international law. Let's discuss some of the political reaction. We're going to be focusing a bit on Starmer in the next hour, really, and the decisions that he's been making. But I mean, I did think that the Green Party reaction, like Mothin Ali, he's 2 for 2 when it comes to major terrorist situations. We had the October 7th thing. He's straight out the traps there with the Palestine shirt on. This one, there was a pro. What I would describe as a pro-Ayatollah demonstration, and then there was a pro-Iranian freedom demonstration, and he was at the one where they liked the Ayatollah.
Yes, exactly. And you know, there are lots of people in this country, I think, who probably did like the Ayatollah too. And we saw a lot of them at that demonstration the other day. You have Zack Polanski speaking out, you know, saying that he understands that negotiations for peace were at the final stages before the US attacked. What does he know about anything? No one of any import talks to Zack Polanski about anything. He hasn't a clue what he's talking about. And what's really got me today is all the liberal lefty voices are now piping up saying how dreadful the US is, and you've got Polanski saying the US and Israel are rogue states. Where were these people when? Where were these voices when the people of Iran were being slaughtered by this regime over the past however many decades? Where were their voices just in the past year when women were being hanged because they'd been raped? Because in Iran, if you're a woman and you get raped, it's your fault, apparently. Where were they when a woman was killed the other week because she had a veil on the wrong way? Where were these liberal voices then, these supposed people who care? They're not. You know why? Because those people, the people in Iran, are Jewish, and they can't use these people as weapons to fight their cause. And it sickens me when I hear people like Corbyn making that speech about, he was talking about the 50 children who were killed. We know now those children were not killed by the US or Israel. They were killed by the IRGC, who mistakenly bombed that school. Yeah, well, so, but you've got people like him and Zara Sultana immediately condemning the US and Israel.
Yeah.
We're actually fighting to make this world a better place for the rest of us.
Actually, I thought, Jake, it was, you know, really quite laughable, some of it. I mean, like, kind of, if you don't laugh, you might cry. But, you know, you think arguably the world's worst terrorist is dead now. We've finally slotted the Ayatollah after several decades. And for people, I don't know, I was really... I mean, people are holding vigils for him tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd, isn't it? I think even, you know, lots of people will have legitimate concerns about this war. I think particularly we have been down this road before, both in Iraq and in Syria, and of course, you know, and in other conflicts. So people have legitimate concerns, but I don't think anyone can say that the world is not a safer place now the Ayatollah has been killed in an airstrike by the Israelis, I believe. And you know, let's put this into context. So. You mentioned earlier that the head of MI6 came out in an extraordinary statement a few years ago and said MI6 had frustrated and MI5 had frustrated 20 attempted terrorism attacks here on the shores of our United Kingdom. A sovereign airbase of the British military was hit today by a drone from Hezbollah, who were told to do it by the Iranian government. That's British territory. That is like a bomb hitting in Kent. Yeah. Or in North Wales or in Scotland or wherever it may be. They have attacked our territory in this great sort of, you know, people incoherent
in this country.
Revenge that Iran is going on. So actually, look, we shouldn't be shedding a tear for Ayatollah. We should be thanking our brave service personnel serving in Cyprus and in other places around the world, Diego Garcia and other places around the world, because where they can, where the Prime Minister has let them, they are playing a really important part in keeping this world safe.
Yeah, so what do you think about what we've seen here so far in terms of the political reaction? I mean, obviously the Greens are very much of the view that this is illegal, that we should divest ourselves entirely from the US and Israel, I think. Keir Starmer, kind of, well, some people would say sitting on the fence a little bit at the moment. What do you make?
Yeah, it's come at a really unfortunate time for the Greens, still high off their by-election victory last week, and they've been barraged by what is arguably one of their weakest positions.
Yeah.
There are many people who might say, I'm a bit fed up with Labour, let's have a go with the Greens and see how they get us domestically. I think there are very few people who are going to align with Polanski today who are going to say the US is not an ally. Say what you want about Donald Trump. I find him incredibly erratic. I don't find him trustworthy. But I don't think we should be cutting our ties permanently with the US on that basis. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that reign of glory can continue, whether they can make the most out of this moment, or whether this nips it in the bud.
But I think they will be exposed in situations like this because they really have no experience of this kind. You know, the Greens were supposed to be an environmental party. They're not anymore. But Polanski really doesn't know what he's talking about. But what sickened me is that we have a Prime Minister in this country who, when this happened, he knew these attacks were coming. He was not prepared. He read a script from an autocue after this happened. And then he ran to Lord Hermer, our Attorney General, to get advice about what to do. He ran to a lawyer to get legal advice so that Britain wouldn't have to get involved. I mean, mean, I was watching him. The man's an embarrassment to this country. I was ashamed of the way he behaved. He's a gutless, perfidious coward.
What would you rather he'd done?
You know what he should have done?
Well, do you know what the country needed?
Let me tell you. Immediately, he should have given access to the bases. Absolutely immediately. That's not getting involved in a big way. It would have cost him nothing to give those bases, because the two countries that are actually going to war to actually fight for us, they deserve
Why are
at
they
least
fighting
that.
for us?
Well, because they struck British sovereign territory.
Yes, and at that point he changed his position.
Do you know what? At the moment,
that's the point where he changed his position.
Iran is the foremost
completely
sponsor
consistent.
of world terrorism. Do you not get that?
Yeah, exactly.
No, of course I get that.
What do you mean, why are they fighting for us? You know that Iran has hit squads in this country that go after people who are against them. Their intelligence services are working in this country to commit atrocities on British soil. They're a danger to us.
So at the moment in time where Britain needed a leader, it ended up with a lawyer who was sat there waiting for a piece of paper to give him an excuse to appease his left-wing backbenchers and also the people in his party who are reliant. Let me finish. Reliant on the Muslim vote.
Yes.
We need a leader. We got a lawyer. He decided to hide behind a piece of paper when we should have stood with our enemies and said we support the United States.
Okay,
Canada,
understood.
Australia managed to do that over the weekend.
On that basis, if he had gone in, how would the situation have been materially different?
It's not about it being materially different. It's about standing with your allies.
If you're not going to make a material difference, what's the point in getting involved?
It's about... why did Australia and Canada manage to come out immediately and say, we support the United States? You have to stand with your allies. Does Keir Starmer truly believe that if President Putin comes over the horizon, that the French are going to pop up, or maybe even the Iranians are going to pop up and defend us against the Russians? Is that what he really believes? There was a brilliant comment by Norman Schwarzkopf, and he said that going to war without the French being involved is like going on a hunting trip and forgetting your accordion. I think that's just a brilliant comment.
Right.
We need strong allies like the United States, like Israel, to stand shoulder to shoulder with us. We expect it of them. They, as a minimum, should expect it of us.
Yeah, I understand your logic if they were being attacked, but this is a different situation where they have decided proactively to go into Iran. Now, I'm not criticising their actions, but what I am saying is that this was a very different situation.
Well, America has said there is a clear and present danger from Iran, and I believe them, because here in the UK, we have foiled 20 terrorist plots by the government of Iran since 2022. Sorry, I'm dating myself there. Since 2022, here on British soil.
But
America has got the guts to stand up.
Do you not see the echoes of following a US president blindly into a
Labour government made an appalling decision on the Iraq war, which I actually don't think has been proven to be illegal. Everyone calls it a legal war. It actually hasn't been proven to be illegal. Doesn't mean that we should not stand with our allies now.
It means we should take a beat, we should think, we should do the analysis before taking
But you have to... Australia and Canada stood with our allies because they see the bigger picture. We didn't. There is a bigger picture.
That left-wing government in Canada managed to stand up almost immediately and say we stand with the United States.
Well, anyway, look, there's plenty more to go at here because we're going to be analysing what Keir Starmer has said today as well in the next hour. But Mothin Ali, who's the co-deputy leader of the Green Party, has clarified his position as, quotes, proudly anti-war. And he has denied that he is supporting the Iranian regime. On a post on X, he said, I'm proudly anti-war, and to be anti-war, that means looking to explore all possible diplomatic solutions. The US and Israel took a unilateral decision in the midst of negotiations to kill the Iranian leader and opted for war. This is deplorable.
Brilliant. He almost got away. I'm glad they got him.
Yeah. This is it. Right, OK. Look, loads on. Obviously, you've been looking at the skies over Jerusalem, and we'll keep you up to date if there is any breaking developments there. Coming up, though,
contingency plans for UK nationals, and I can assure her and the House we're working at speed with our partners in the region to take whatever measures we can to make sure that our people can return as safely and as swiftly as possible, and will continue to do so.
Well, the government is scrambling to evacuate the hundreds of thousands of Brits who are stranded across the Middle East. I think half of Essex is in Dubai, actually. We're going to be speaking to one of those people who is holed up in Dubai, actually, as the missiles rained down. Don't go anywhere.